Good morning, everyone. Kevin here from Skywatcher, and welcome to another episode of the Skywatcher What's Up Webcast. We do this every Friday, 10 a.m. Pacific, right here at the Skywatcher USA YouTube channel. Today is Friday, December 16th, 2022, and this is the final episode of the What's Up Webcast for 2022. For everyone who's kind of hung in there and subscribed and just put up with us, quite frankly, for the last 2.5 years. Thank you very much for being a part of it. We already have tons of plans for next year. We've got episodes already lined up for the first portion of 2023. That's going to take a minute to get used to. But it'll be a lot of fun, and we appreciate you having the time with us every Friday, and we hope you've had a good time with it this year. So all of us from here at the Skywatcher team, we appreciate you being along with us for the ride. Couple little announcements before we bring in our hodgepodge of guests today, who are hanging out in the wings. It is the holiday season. There is product in stock. You can either go to our website and see what's available, or you can talk to your favorite dealer. There's still a few days left to get all the junk that you want to put under the tree. I mean junk in a very respective term, but stuff. All right. Other than that, if you need something to put under the tree or in a stocking or whatever you want to do, you can go over to the skywatcher.threadless.com store, grab something. Maybe there's a product that you're waiting for. You can use this as a IOU. It's on its way. Reminder, we've got all kinds of fun stuff there, but you can go over to the skywatcher.threadless.com store to check out what kind of fun stuff is there and available for the holiday season. And then I was supposed to talk about something else, and I can't remember what it is, and I'm burning up time. There we go. Our CQ350 mount, they are shipping right now. If you're looking for one, they should be available. If you want to see one in person, I will be down in Tucson tomorrow at Star Arizona, which I will pull their website up just because they're here. David Levy is going to be there doing a book signing tomorrow too, so that'll be kind of cool. But I'll be there all day, starting at 10 a.m. all the way till 10 p.m. For their Star Party. So I'll be down there tomorrow all day at Star Arizona, showing off the new CQ350 mount. Come and ask questions. Don't ask me for a free one, and come have a fun time. So with all that being said, we thought it'd be really kind of a fun thing to wrap up 2022 with a panel of some of our friends. And so let's do that. And there is the trio that we decided to wrap the year with. We have Nico from Nebula Photos. We have Trevor from Astro Backyard. And we have Richard Wright, who's a contributing editor. That's right. Contributing editor?
Yes.
Okay. For Sky and Telescope. I should have had all that in my head, and it went out the door very quickly. So, hey guys, how you doing?
Great.
Good, man. Good to be here.
Thanks for spending it's actually afternoon already for you East Coasters. It's still morning here on the West Coast. But we're here. So I think usually, obviously, for the webcast, I ask how everyone got started in astronomy. We've been down that road, and if you haven't seen those episodes, go watch the other episodes that all of them are on. But there's a lot of cool things that have happened this year, from equipment to processing to whatever it could be. So I wasn't sure for you guys if there was like a highlight for you imaging wise, because I know every year we kind of look back when the year's over. It's like, this was my best image, or this is this. And then you kind of compare that to where maybe you were last year, or even years ago. You look at your picture and like, dang, I killed it this year. But I didn't know if there was a highlight point for all three of you, for yourself, that happened this year. I'll start you, Nico. I'll throw it to you because you've got the green background. So.
Thanks, Kevin. Yeah, I mean, probably just I always sort of gravitated towards short focal lengths. Like, I started with camera lenses and then moved on to small refractors. And this year is the first time I tried something a little bit bigger. So I did a 130 millimeter refractor at 700 to 1,000 millimeter focal length. And so just sort of moving up a little bit. I'm still haven't done like SCT or anything like that. So, but for me, it was a new challenge, and I liked the image that I made. I did I have to remember the number, LDN 1251, just this cool dark nebula in Cepheus. So that was probably my highlight of the year.
The whole constellation of Cepheus is literally a dust ball. So I need to do like a whole constellation shot, just all of it one together. So everyone's complaining that there's not enough women in astronomy in the chat. We're working on it. We have plans for next year. Wait, or stop chasing them off. So it's like, sorry, that was a rant, but Trevor, I'll hand it to you.
So this year for me was really nice to get out there and travel again and go to some really cool spots. The ultimate highlight was probably the Okie-Tex Star Party, because it was my first time under a Bortle 1 sky, that elusive, truly dark sky, and it was an unforgettable experience for me. In terms of like my personal progress as an imager, it wasn't really a year where I did a lot of new things. Like 2020 was the first time I used a long focal length scope, an SCT, and really started doing planets and stuff like that. So it was a huge learning curve that year. This year, I really tried to just focus on quality, getting my image processing to the next level, more pics and sight stuff than I historically would do, and more longer term projects. And a big part of that is because I started looking into printing my astro photos, and it's a completely different process that you go through to get an image ready to print high resolution, 3 feet wide, than it would be for me to do an image for an Instagram post or something. So it kind of forced me to up my game in terms of quality, both in acquisition and processing. And I really, really enjoyed it. And now I kind of want to go back and redo everything.
Yeah, because that's a very different approach. Especially because so many people, they just show their work on Instagram or Facebook, and it's like, wow, it looks nice. Mm-hmm. It's completely different when it's like, oh, it needs to be 16 by 24 at 300 DPI, and it's like, yeah, pixely stars don't look nice when it's printed. So
yeah, nowhere to hide. Yep, everything's shown.
What about you, Richard?
Oh, for me, it's been a kind of a year of transition for me. So early beginning of the year, I stepped away from Software Bisque after about 20 years working for them. And so I'm mostly known for doing deep sky stuff and promoting, the Paramounts and the sky and all of that. So 2 things I started doing this year. I started doing a lot more lucky imaging. So, I am kind of a software developer, so I'm looking for a niche that's underserved. And so I've been doing lots of lunar, solar, and planetary stuff this year. And it's a very different workflow from deep sky. And the tools are interesting. For deep sky, I still love doing deep sky, and I did a lot of one-shot color this year. Everybody's like, "Oh, you should go one-shot color. It's great." No, I'm going back to mono. So next year will be the year of the return to mono. Got a whole new set of filters on order, and I'm getting a new, shiny mono camera. So yeah, I can't wait to go back to mono imaging on deep sky stuff. So that's kind of where I am.
Nice. Well, and next year is going to be I know, Trevor, you haven't dabbled with it much. Nico, I'm not sure if you have either or what your thoughts are in it. Richard and I have, but solar over the next 2 years is going to be not even 2 years at this point. Over the next 18 months is going to be stupid with the 2 back-to-back eclipses here in North America. So I know that'll be something to dabble with a little bit more.
Yeah, I captured the last eclipse in America, and definitely will do this upcoming one. Although my favorite automation software, Solar Eclipse Maestro for the Mac, is only running on very old Mac OS. So I don't know, I might virtualize an old Mac OS system so I can use that software, because it was just my favorite. It just did everything perfectly on the last eclipse. Do
you have plans for the eclipses, Trevor?
No.
Or at least the total eclipses?
No, nothing set in stone yet, which is a big problem. I need to get on that, and I really need to practice my solar imaging as well. Never done anything other than putting a the makeshift filter, or it was actually there was a specific film that was safe to use, and I made a custom cover for my 8-inch Dob way back to see the transit of Venus. And other than that, I haven't really done anything for solar. I've never experienced a total solar eclipse in my life in person either. So need to get prepared for that.
Yeah, you and Ash need to make a trip.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
My last solar eclipse, I took a trip, and not only did the moon go in front of the sun, but a huge cloud frontal system moved in front of the sun as well. So
I forgot about that. You told me about that.
should have went to Wyoming.
Yep,
Nope.
we were clear,
No.
staring at it. It's freaking awesome. You understand
Nope.
why the Mayans killed people over it, because it's like, dang. So,
I'm going out west next time. Not fooling with
you got a lot of refractors in there too, Trevor. You need like a Daystar, like a narrowband Daystar filter, and you can hook them up to all of that.
No kidding.
Oh, yeah.
I need to explore other avenues.
The heck, Jen? Chop, chop. Put you in. Yeah, that's a different conversation. If someone would have come to Seoul, but they were so busy they couldn't make it. It's just... There's a question here. I've never any comments from the panel on Russell's new panel. Oh, for the panel. I'm sorry, there's a typo in there. Any comments for the panel on Russell's new Blue Exterminator software?
Blur Exterminator.
Blur.
I
There's
guess
a
we've heard of
typo
it.
and I can't read. So.
I guess we've all heard of it. Yeah.
Yes.
I tried it this morning. It was really impressive. I mean, I still have to play around with it a lot more because it just came out, but I watched Adam's video and it looks amazing.
I'm so excited to try it. I'll probably download it today. Everything Russ has come up with, I've downloaded to this point and loved it. So yeah, a new deconvolution tool to sharpen image that does it better than the de facto deconvolution. Sign me up. I can't wait to try that out.
Yeah, I haven't tried it out either, but I've been preaching for about the last year about how machine learning is going to change astrophotography dramatically. And I think we're only seeing the tip of the iceberg here. It's going a year, 2, 3 from now, it's going to be so different. We're not even going to recognize it.
Well, it's been so ridiculous now because, you know, like the ASI Air, you buy one of those little boxes for $300. We had one for a couple of years just at Skywatcher, and it's like, I'll use it. I don't know why people are using it. Then I used it. It was like, oh, I get it.
The biggest eye opener for me for AI and its uses for image processing was Russ Croman's talk at the AIC, where he played a time lapse of the machine learning going through one of his images and understanding what was noise and what wasn't. Or I think it was actually what were stars. It was for Star Exterminator, and what weren't, and replacing the missing data behind the stars in a really great way. And just seeing it go through the image, it's like, nope, you got it wrong that time, try again. And it got better and better and better. And then, you know, lo and behold, the final product, the Star Exterminator, just an incredible job, something that, you know, manually you could never do yourself. It was really cool.
Yeah, I saw that talk too. One of the things I liked was showing people how much work goes into it. It's not just like, oh, we wrote this program and it just magically knows. No, it's a huge amount of work to create these models. You know, it takes months and months and months of analysis and data crunching. And then once you have the models evaluate very fast. So you can do things super fast, but it takes so much work, you know, to get all that ready. And he's really at the forefront of that. I think that's great.
Yeah, AIC was pretty interesting this year. Well, first it was the first one that was in a while, and then Trevor, you got to go. Nico was there too. That was your first AIC, wasn't it?
We're all
for
there.
both of you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How was that? You know, Richard and I have been several years for work, but how was it? Because I've never gone as just kind of you guys weren't even attendees, you were speakers, but you're still more of an attendee than being stuck at a booth doing work. How did that, going to an event like that, adjust your imaging after you left, like, or your approach to astrophotography going to a dedicated conference for it?
I'll let Nico go. He saw more talks than I did.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting. It's definitely only one part of the hobby, I would say. Like a lot of the stuff that I do on my YouTube channel is more for just like beginners, and I feel that AIC, it does sort of live up to the advanced imaging conference in that it's more like people who have been doing this for a while and really know what they want to get out of it. So
it is very dense
yeah.
of what it is. It's a smaller conference, especially compared to like NEAF. But yeah, you're really in the core of it at that point.
Yeah, I really, really enjoyed it, and I can't wait to go back just as an attendee, because I was so focused, and I had huge imposter syndrome going into that talk. Because, so I was so focused and nervous about my own talk that I didn't get to fully enjoy anything until after it was over. So I missed a lot of the great processing talks like Nico's and Carrie Ann's. I really wanted to see, but I was still too busy tweaking my own talk. So I can't wait to go back and just fully experience it as an attendee.
Yeah, it'd be cool for you to just be there.
I think that it was my favorite AIC ever, other than coming home with COVID.
Yeah, that was a thing.
But it was my first AIC that I didn't have booth duty, and so I got to go to the talks, and the talks, a lot of the talks were very good, and I got to spend a lot more time with my friends and networking with other imagers. So yeah, not having booth duty, it was a really different experience, and I liked it. Yeah.
That's probably one of the most important things. Like, I know a lot of people who attend these events, they always come up to us and they're like, yeah, thanks for coming. And I'm sure Nico and Trevor, you couldn't walk 5 feet without someone stopping you and telling you about all this stuff. But I think for the vendors, exhibitors, whatever the heck you want to call them, even the speakers, it's fun to do that. But the biggest takeaway for, I think, us from just behind the scenes is all the time we get to spend together after hours. And I'm not telling you guys where we do that, because I've been down that road before, and it's not my first rodeo anymore. But that networking just internally, I think, really builds the structure of just wanting to work with each other and being like, hey, this was really cool and whatever. And I know Ian Lauer is in the chat right now. Hi, Ian. Even getting to see him, I haven't seen him in years. And then we all got to hang out and that was the first time I got to meet Ash in person. So it's just kind of cool to build that network internally, because I think that just makes the industry, or just our side of the coin for exhibitors or whatever, to have a stronger foundation. For you guys, it probably gives you better content capabilities, or us, it lets us reach further out to just build the hobby up in general. So
I should shout out Jay, who is a Skywatcher ambassador. After I met him at AIC, and then afterwards he invited me out to his observatory, and I did a video on his backyard observatory. So that was really fun.
No, that was a cool. I like that series that you're doing too, where you kind of, it's almost like MTV Cribs. But it's, Nico going into people's observatories. I have some friends out here if you want to travel. They'd be professional observatories if you wanted to actually crash a real one. So, not that they're not real. That wasn't insulting. But I mean, like, here's Nico at Lowell Observatory. Here's Nico at the Large Binocular Telescope. Here's Nico at the Vatican Observatory. Here's Nico getting thrown out of the Vatican Observatory. Just because we didn't technically get permission to go in the door. But, but it'd be a cool part to your series. But I think it is neat that you've kind of taken on the talking to people with backyard observatories. Because I think so many of us dream to have that. And it's like, well, what would I do if I could? Like the recent one you just did, I thought I'd never seen it, but the whole split roof design that the gentleman did was like, that's kind of cool. Didn't think about that. So it's just things like that. It's some of these people we never get to meet because we don't live in that part of the country or the world or whatever. I mean, you went all the way out and talked to Helena in Scotland. So it's just cool that I know Trevor and Nico, you're really good at this, and Trevor, I know you're trying to do more of it, and it's more of probably a budget thing where you're going out to somewhere and you're taking your audience along with you at that point, and it just takes people along for the ride.
Yeah, and it's hard as a one-man crew because even though I have a sort of a history in video production, it's just like you still can make a lot of mistakes with like audio and different things. It's like it, and I was impressed at AIC when you did that walk around the show floor, Kevin. That was really seamless. So it's hard, but
that's all thanks to Simon.
Yeah,
Simon made that whole thing work. All of you who were like, "Wow, the AIC thing was awesome," it was. Thanks, Simon. That was a freaking nightmare to put together, but Simon figured it all out, and it was awesome. But that was a lot of work. But I'd love to do that with Neef, but that's going to be a lot of work. I know we're kind of drifting a little off course, but I'll just bring it around. Bringing things around real quick. What are some things in 2023 that you want to image? Are there some targets that are... Richard, I already know yours because it's the same one every year. That's constantly so, but I didn't know for 2023, what is something that you guys are looking forward to capturing?
So I'm really guilty of doing the heavy hitters over and over again instead of the really like obscure dim objects. I just always like, I feel the need to improve on my latest version so badly because, you know, I'll look at my Witchhead Nebula and just be like, oh man, I know I can do better than that. So I'll probably do that one again. And this time, just like you're doing, Kevin, I would love to do a mosaic of that region, something with a little bit of a longer focal length, even if it was just 3 panels along. That's one I've really been thinking about. And it is a challenge for me because that's a dark sky trip. That one will be pretty tough to do from home.
Especially if you're mosaicing, it's a project. I know we were talking a little while ago. I think it was you, me, and I think it was even Diana, who's Vanilla Moon on Instagram. And you were kind of talking how you want to shoot some of the similar targets, but you kind of want to approach the framing of it differently, where you're kind of approaching it more as a photographer rather than just, I took this picture. You actually want to orient it to where it looks interesting. Because I know that's something she spends a ton of time doing. And I saw you did that with, was it M101? There's a galaxy you just posted recently, and you did approach it in a different framework.
Me? I posted the Triangulum recently, but that was
That's what it was.
I was pretty standard framing for that one, just because I was kind of stuck with the old data from 2019 I captured. But
okay.
That kind of stuff is really what I'm thinking about, and you have more options, of course, when you do start doing those mosaics and capture a wider region. It's like, okay, what do you group together in this shot? And then the color palette and all the other fun stuff you get to do with it like that. But yeah, I think, you know, when you look at Astrobin and Instagram, you see so many of the same familiar orientations of the biggest objects. So, you know, just turning something or shooting it from a wider field sometimes can make it look completely different.
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting, because I know a lot of us, it's just like, well, this is the way, you know, east is this way, and it has to be scientifically accurate. It's like, I get it.
North is up, always.
But you can also just approach it in a different format, especially depending on how if it's not going to be scientifically accurate. But there's a lot of cool details up there. And I know, Nico, you're really good at shooting the really wide field stuff. And your images are so deep and elaborate with the dust that you get in there that I'm sure you almost have to approach it and, okay, well, I want this nebula and this nebula to be in the frame. I don't want to cut that out, but it's kind of about approaching it in the framework that you want as well, and not just boop. Okay, that's what came out.
Yeah, and I like bright stars as anchor points in an image too. I mean, bright stars can really sort of guide the eye in a cool way. And especially if you can get color, you know, nice color on a bright star, like a brilliant blue or yellow star in the right place in your image could make it or break it, I think.
That's a good way of I think about that when I shoot an object with a bright star. But yeah, what I think is kind of cool and how you're kind of approaching it is you are approaching it as like an art or just how are you going to see this play out rather than just, well, I took this picture and here's what I did. You're actually trying to kind of tell a story of where your eye goes across and stuff, it's just a different approach to it. And you're seeing a lot more of that.
A really easy tip I can give people is like make a strong diagonal in your picture from one corner to the other corner in the frame, and that will really, people won't know why they like it, but they'll really like it if there's some kind of strong diagonal in your picture.
Yeah, it just tells the story differently. So, and then I know Trevor, with we've talked about mosaics, and I think now that mosaics are becoming easier and easier, even in the ASI Air, like more people should try doing that, especially because not everyone's going to have a full frame, big field of view camera. Like, okay, well, you've got a 533 and a decent little focal length refractor or whatever it is, do a mosaic. Like, it doesn't have to be, well, it doesn't fit or it doesn't do this. It's like, no, it just means you got to approach it differently.
Yeah, that feature, that mosaic feature, is the reason why I feel more comfortable going in now. I didn't use Sequence Generator Pro or some of the other tools that people have been using over the last few years to create mosaics, but the ASI Air I'm very comfortable with, and that tool is the reason why now I'll be exploring mosaics a lot more. It just makes it so much easier, especially with the dim areas that you're photographing that you really don't know they're there until 5-10 minute exposure. Now it makes projects of those areas in a mosaic a lot easier.
There's a question that popped up. This one's probably more for
just one last thing about the mosaic. This thing has a really interesting way to do mosaics. I was just testing it the other night. Instead of like panels, like a 2-panel mosaic or a 4-panel mosaic like we're used to, it is just like dithering around the whole area of the mosaic frame and building the image that way. So there's a lot of overlap, but by the time it's done, you don't see any seams or noise patterns. It just sort of dithers everywhere. And I thought it was really cool. It's a new feature on the Vaonis telescopes.
That's cool.
Fancy. So this kind of segues from the mosaic stuff. It's probably more for Richard. With all the tech developments and astro imaging gear, and especially around compute/image processing, when do you all think more auto processing imaging gear will be available to the masses? I mean, in a way, what Nico just talked about is already part of that. So
I know of at least 3 projects that I'm under NDA and can't talk about. So it's a few months ago, I actually did an article in Sky and Tell, the future of astrophotography, and I talked about how cameras are getting ridiculously better. Optics have been getting better for years. I have 3 f3 optics now, that I can shoot with. It's becoming a commodity. And, we take these long exposures and we stack them. Well, what's the difference between, a 1-hour exposure and 60 1-minute exposures? Are they the same? They can be the same. The limit is the noise introduced by the camera. If you have a perfect camera, you could do a 1-second exposure for 6 hours. You still need 6 hours worth of exposure. You can't get more light out of the Andromeda galaxy, but the limit on how short the exposures is how good the cameras are. Well, the cameras are pretty good these days. We had this great, when CMOS started getting a foothold, we had this great reduction in read noise. We were still held up because even though there's great read noise, we had a lot of pattern noise. Well, now the pattern noise is down too. And so we can get away with really short exposures. And I think maybe one more, well, Kevin's got to wander off. Good, now I can just talk and talk and talk. One more generation of improvements to CMOS, we're not going to be able to get much better. What do you do when the read noise is essentially nothing and the quantum efficiency is essentially 100? What are you going to do? Well, we're gonna be taking 1 second exposures, and we're not gonna have to guide anymore. And well, you got to have lots and lots of space to stack up, a 10, 100,000 1 second exposures. No, you don't. No, you don't. Well, you just stack 1 second exposures for 5 minutes and then save it, and then stack 1 second exposures for another 5 minutes and save it. You can still, I run into people like, no, because you can't dither if you're not guiding. We're like, all dithering is moving the telescope, and it doesn't have to move every single frame. It just has to move. If you've got 6 hours worth of data and you've moved the telescope, 12 times, that's enough to dither and get rid of those hot pixels. And there are people working, and I'm not like this visionary or anything. There's lots of people. Every time I talk to other people, oh yeah, we're working on that, or hey, we got this project and we're doing something similar. And you got Russ Croman is beating everybody to the punch with his machine learning stuff, but we're 5 years from now. I remember when I joined Software Bisque, they were like, people laughed at them because they bring in a laptop out next to the telescope. And then it's like, well, everybody's got a laptop. And 5 years from now, they're going to laugh at you again for bringing a laptop. They're gonna like, who uses a laptop next to the telescope? Things like the ASI Air and Stellarmate and Astroberry and things like that. There's lots of projects. If you Google around, there's actually quite a few of those projects. This sort of happens as the technology advances. People who are in the technology, we all have the same ideas at the same time. And like I always say, I've done lots of product development. Your ideas are worthless. I don't care about what great idea you have. It's not worth anything. Execution is everything. Because I guarantee you, no matter how great your idea is, there's 100 other people who have the same idea. And whoever builds it first wins. And there are lots of people who are figuring out that the cameras are really stinking good. We've got GPUs on even a Raspberry Pi. We have software that can make use of multi-core computers. Well, a GPU has thousands of cores. I mean, it's not like 3 times faster than the fastest Intel processor. It's like hundreds or thousands of times faster than an Intel processor. And that sort of thing is becoming more of a commodity, and you don't have to be a computer scientist to put together and use these algorithms. And so the tools are improving, the software tools are improving, the hardware is improving, and the cameras are improving. And so the big question is, when's this going to happen? It's happening. It's happening right now. It's going on as we speak. And yeah, 5 years from now, everybody will be imaging from they'll be checking on their image run with their iPad, and there'll be a little box that's doing everything. And nobody's going to sit next to their computer all night with their telescope, with their laptop. I've had my laptop rained on in the backyard, and that's why we started. I started using the Raspberry Pi about 7 or 8 years ago. I ported the Sky to the Raspberry Pi because I was tired of my battery running down on my laptop, and I was tired of my laptop getting rained on. If it rains on a $30 computer, oh well, I can replace it. And that was a great idea, not necessarily executed very well. And look, lots of other people have had the same great idea, and they're executing on it. Some of them are executing on it very well. And so I believe we're seeing astrophotography go from a hobbyist niche. I want to tinker, to where it's going to it'll be a commodity. It's mainstream. Astrophotography will be mainstream. We already have the Nico was showing a minute ago. Those little guys, some of the high-end imagers, they just poo-poo those things. They're like, well, those images aren't very good. I remember jumping up and down in my backyard when I got M51, and it looked like the faintest swirl of snot on my computer screen, and I could tell that it was a galaxy. After 15 years, yeah, you might want something a little better than that, but that's a great way to start. And trust me, 15 years from now, you'll be those little cheap devices will be popping out images every bit as good as the one behind me or the one that Warren Keller spent 40 hours processing from an observatory in Chile. That's where it's going to be. So it's happening. It's happening right now.
Yeah, I'm pretty impressed by
Richard.
how the costs of these things are coming down. This is going to come out next year. This is
Hmm.
the Dwarf 2, $400. I mean, it's it's not ready yet, really. I mean, it's still hard to use compared to the Vespera, but it's just I see the promise of this. It's still a lot of fun to just be able to very quickly do solar, lunar, and deep sky with one little device.
Hmm.
$400. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
incredible. It's the price of a entry-level DSLR, and you're capturing space.
And you know what? No, the the established guard is not going to be happy because at
They're
I,
never happy, Richard.
no, I don't want to trash talk my old allegiances, but I remember I told Steve Bisk, I said the day's coming where 30-minute unguided exposures is no longer going to be a competitive advantage. I mean, they make great mounts. The Paramount is a great mount. I have 3 of them. I plan to use them for a long, long time. But you're not going to need, for a long time, it's like I can go unguided for 30 minutes. Nobody's going to already nobody cares. I don't need 30 minutes for anything. Even for narrowband, I don't 5 minutes is enough for narrowband on a modern camera. Yeah, even less depending on your focal ratio. And so, yeah, a lot of people are going to be very unhappy. They're who's going to go to a 1 week, Pix and Sight class, 5 years from now? It's not going to be. It'll be something very different. So, as in all things, it's going to change. What are you going to do? Are you going to be the dinosaur, or are you going to evolve and move forward? And
Richard
it's
and I have a
painful.
running joke on it too, where you ask, it's like, well, who's working on it? Top men.
Top.
Good time. There's a bunch of questions in here for all of you guys. Okay, we did that one. If you could buy just one piece of equipment in 2023, what would it be?
Who wants to take that?
Richard, you kind of already took
I
the
already
jump.
have everything. I don't.
You
I don't.
You
Yeah,
got new stuff on the way.
I've got a new. Yeah, can we do that? We can plug. I got a new Player One mono camera on the way with the filter wheel, and I'm excited about that. Just got a new reducer for my Esprit 80. I'm very excited about
Yeah,
turning
the
that into an F.
Apex.
Yeah, I've got the Apex. I also have the Apex for my Quattro, which is also F3.
Oh,
So
that's a Nexus.
that's a Nexus. When I first got started, my first big telescope purchase was my Officina Stellare Veloce, and I paid for it with book royalties, and talked my wife into it when she was on morphine after she had an accident. She's like, "Yeah, hon, whatever." But that was the first really expensive. But that was F3, and man, I tell you what, it was like I had a Ferrari. I had the Chickmobile. It was like, look at this. I go to a star party with that, and oh, Richard's got we gotta see it. We gotta see it. Nowadays, nobody cares. Wait, F3, whatever.
Datsun. We got Datsun here.
It's no big
No
deal
one
anymore.
cares.
And that's how it's like we think the cameras have really come a long way, since we got started. So have optics. The telescopes have gotten a lot better too. So that's pretty cool. So I guess, yeah, if I could buy one thing, I've got a great solar filter. I've got a whole armada of telescopes and mounts. Um, yeah, I guess the most exciting thing, I'm excited to get back to mono. That one-shot color just not doing it for me. I knew it wouldn't, but yeah. Anyway, but that's me. Where's you guys?
The last piece of gear that I was really excited about was the ASI 6200 mono camera, because just to have a full frame mono camera with those specs was like unlike any other camera I've ever used before. So that was and that's here now, still testing that out. So that was the last thing that I got really excited about. In terms of like exotic big telescopes and stuff, because of the nature of my YouTube channel, I try not to use the really high-end stuff that people would be like, well, how many people are actually owning and using these things? So I'm more excited about the innovative beginner level products. Like the GTI was awesome. this year, and stuff that, the dwarf that Nico just showed, really cool, like, beginner level innovations is the stuff that excites me now and into 2023.
I tried some near IR imaging like 3 or 4 years ago, and just didn't get anywhere with it. I was using the ASI 1600, and I think the problem was the quantum efficiency of the ASI 1600 out there, past 700 nanometers, was just not good enough. But now I have some of these newer Sony sensors, so I think I'm going to try NIR imaging again, partly because the JWST really excited me about like sort of the possibilities there.
Richard and I messed around with that at Texas Star Party once. Like everyone was, I think we were having like salmon dip because it was cloudy. And I had a near IR filter and we put it on a Starlight 694, which is pretty good sensitivity in the reds. And it was a 50 millimeter lens. And Richard comes over. He's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Imaging." It's like, it's cloudy. And lo and behold, through the clouds, Starlight coming through with the
Awesome.
IR. And I've shot Orion with it too, and it's so different. It's so cool to use nebulas, or there's galaxies hidden behind the dust up in Perseus that you can't see, and it's like a whole nother bit that isn't tapped much.
Completely overcast. We did a T-point run. It's just...
What do you do when you're bored? That's going to be fun this year for those. Can I tell them, Trevor?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, we're going to drag Trevor to Texas Star Party. And Ash. She better be coming.
Back to Texas.
Yeah. Wah, wah,
No, we're excited
wah.
about that.
It'll be fun. It'll be like the one year that we get like a tornado through the thing and it's
Don't
terrible.
say
It's just
that. No.
I've seen Dobbs go airborne. That is
Yep.
not. That is not.
I don't want to hear that.
we'll show you how to keep your thing on the ground.
Those Death Devils are a thing.
Yes. There goes Trevor. Something. Question on narrowband filters with one-shot color cameras. Using an Optilong L Extreme Duo with a one-shot color. If you use O3 narrowband filter, can I get more O3 data in my images? Oh, as opposed to using a dual band versus just if you're just using the narrowband filter, only the blue is going to be active. Blue greenish is going to be active depending on how narrow the filter is going to be. If you're using the Duo, you're getting more signal, but I don't know that you're getting any more signal from the O3 at all. You really just need to go with a monochrome camera. And
You
call
have
it
to
a-
you have to compare the bandpass diagrams. I mean,
Yeah.
you're not getting more light from the nebula. There's only so much light coming, and you're either letting through the red and the blue, or you're letting through only the red, or you're letting through only the blue. But you're not. It depends on how narrow it is.
Yeah, and
So
if you're
the easy
too broad on
answer is,
O3,
go for the dual band.
Mhm.
yes. If you're using one-shot color, just do the dual bands.
Come on up.
Ian. TSP, what are the dates? It's called Google, Ian. You sell prints. Look it up. So, I'm going to throw him under the bus publicly. Sorry. So, Cat's going to kill me now. Other than the obvious things to image, DSOs, planets, lunar, what other things can you guys suggest to image that is astronomy related? Solar? I don't know. That didn't leave much left to, or IR, like what Nico had mentioned, near IR.
Quasars, stars. I'm just trying to think of all the different objects. I don't know.
Kevin does a
What's that?
lot of planetary nebulas and dust.
Yeah.
Dusty areas.
Dark and dirty,
Mhm.
which could be taken in a lot of different ways. But yes, when it comes to nebulas, dark and dirty. So that's why Cepheus is fun. So let's see. How does the panel overcome the some is good, more is better, too much is just right pitfall of integration time on a target?
So there's, I'm sure Richard will have a great answer for the sweet spot of where it levels off. Me, because the weather is not great here, I have such limited clear sky time. It's always as much as humanly possible before the target is gone for the season. So I'm always trying to just pile on as much integration as possible. And I rarely get a project that goes over 10 or 12 hours. But I know there is that leveling off point that I'm sure Richard will explain better.
I think it depends on the target too.
Sure.
That's exactly what I was going to say. It depends on the target. You can take a 1-minute exposure of the Andromeda Galaxy, and the core of the Andromeda Galaxy is perfectly smooth and there's no noise. So it depends. I see those charts. One of the things I have to do in my talk is to turn that chart with the signal to noise ratio, and they talk about asymptotes. And my response to that is always, well, everybody did not get an A in algebra. That chart looks the same whether it's number of exposures or number, whether it's an hour-long exposure or a 1-minute exposure. That the physical property is the signal. How much signal do you get from your target? If you're shooting a very dim target without a lot of signal, you're going to get a lot of noise. And you can just shoot and shoot and shoot, and very, very dim areas, things will keep coming out of those very dim areas. One of the things I love about the newer cameras is with the read noise and the pattern noise being so low, how much flux nebula is. Everybody's getting flux nebula everywhere. I first noticed this when Kevin and I and Brian share a remote place, and Kevin's shooting like this globular cluster. He's like, look at all this stuff around the globular cluster. It's just like, that's flux nebula.
It was M15.
How are you getting everywhere you point? There's flux nebula, and it's just the cameras are, some of that stuff that you used to have to go really, really long time is coming out a lot sooner. You're not getting more light, but the very faint stuff, if the noise is in the faint stuff, you have to shoot a long time to stack that out. If the signal is up above the noise, you're better. But anyway, it depends on the target. It just depends on the target. And we see, here's another thing you're seeing, the evolution of astrophotography. You'd see a galaxy, and everybody would print beautiful galaxy, beautiful galaxy. And then if you notice lately, those galaxy pictures, there's all kinds of stuff behind the galaxies and around the galaxies. M42 and the Running Man used to be on a black background, and now it's like there's all kinds of dust around M42 and the Running Man. And it's embarrassing to put up a M42 and Running Man on a black background now, because you got to have all that dust and stuff that's behind it. The only way to get that is a really sensitive camera and to go longer exposures. So if you're happy with M42, you don't need very much exposure time at all. You want to get the stuff in the background, you got to go longer. I never use online calculators to figure out how long I should shoot. I'll take a couple of test exposures and evaluate them, and then I'll just shoot all night and I'll stack it and go, I think there's some stuff over here. Let's go a little longer. It's the difference between being a chef and being, microwaving a TV dinner. If you TV dinners are great initially, when you're hungry and you don't have anything else. But if you want to practice your craft and you want to start getting better, you're going to get to the point where online calculators aren't doing it. They're great rules of thumb when you don't have anything else to hold on to. Anyway, thanks for coming to my TED Talk. I'm going to shut up.
Well, to add on to what Richard is saying, it's also using different filters for different integration times, because you may, on some objects, I may shoot 30, 40 hours on the O3 filter and only need 6 hours on HA or something like that. Because there's a very, very dim O3 signal there, especially with supernova remnants, things like that. Like if you've shot the Spaghetti Nebula, if you look at any pictures of that before like 2010, maybe, it's just red. But there's actually a lot of O3 tendrils in there too that now people bring out.
The Squid Nebula.
The Squid Nebula, yeah.
Yeah, that's another one where it's like you need 10 times the O3 that you do the HA, if not more.
Yeah, that HA is going to overpower everything because it's so
I
powerful.
did a 20-minute exposure, single 20-minute exposure on the Squid at f3. And it's like with an O3 filter, and I'm like, I can sort of see it there. That's going to take a lot of time to bring that out.
I'm going to skip a couple little questions in here. Here's one. What's everyone's least favorite part of astrophotography? Short answer, because we got 10 minutes.
The weather.
It's mine
Oh,
too.
wow. Yeah. Yeah.
It's because you're completely helpless, and the timing of it sometimes it just seems like it's really just trying to mess with you. Where it's like you're praying for a clear night to either finish or start a new project, and that's when the stretch of 15 days of cloudy skies come. It's so cruel.
I'll give another answer. Just me being disorganized and having all of these like half finished filter trains around, and I have no idea like what this image train is about, why these filters are stuck together, what's going on, and just chaos with equipment.
Yeah. It adds up after a while when you got too much stuff.
I've given up to a degree with keeping everything organized in its case, and pull it out when I need it, kind of thing. It's in a constant state of things are half put together from the last time I used it, or I needed one thing and pulled it out and put it in a separate setup. And Ashley's like, oh, you need to be so much more organized. And I'm like, Ash, like if that was going to happen, it would have happened by now. It's never going to happen. It'll always be disorganized and chaos forever.
This is a fun one because it's really relevant right now. What are your primary grab and go rigs?
I'll say the GTI Canon RA and my 85mm lens. That's just really easy. I've just been using it actually without counterweight, just doing like 30 to 60-second subs, and I just really like that.
Yeah, it depends on the type of stuff I'm shooting, but if I'm going somewhere dark and I want to shoot wide, the Star Adventurer, my Canon RA, and like a 24mm f1.4 lens, that's my wide angle sky shooter. If I'm going deeper, right now the AM5 is actually really portable. I have a 75mm refractor on there, ASI 2600 filter wheel, all of that. I can pick it up and just move it out from the garage. The whole thing probably weighs 35 pounds. So that's been my grab and go right now.
Grab and go. So I've got the Star Adventure GTI as well, and I really like that a lot with camera lenses. So I've been taking it almost everywhere I go with me. But I do like to put a small refractor on it. So I have a stowaway 92mm astrophysics, and if I can go just a little more, I'll bring my Paramount Mighty and one of my Esprits along with me. That's more like a lug and go, but I take those to some surprising locations.
What's my grab and go? I don't do grab and go very much because usually I'm already knowing what I'm doing and where I'm going. If I'm imaging, I'm not really imaging from home anyway. I lay in bed and remote image at this point because I have 2 kids and don't have time to really get to dark skies. And if I do get to dark skies, I don't want to be yelling at a battery in a computer, because then you just look like a freak in the middle of the desert yelling at a battery in a computer. Yeah, I do more visual grab and go. Sorry, I know that's like, if Dylan were in here, I would have been like,
that's what I wanted to say. That's really the stowaway is really my number one visual on the GTI. Like I'm taking it camping, over Christmas. But of course, nobody on here wants to hear about visual. But yeah.
Peace. Yeah. So with that, I know there's a ton of questions in here. We're not going to get to them all, especially with 3 people answering. What's one piece of astro gear you wish existed but doesn't? And this is where, as a product development person, I'm going to pull the notepad out and remember, ideas are worthless unless they're executed. So.
I don't know. I mean, we're extremely spoiled these days as astrophotographers with tools and features. Nothing standing out that's missing to me right now.
That's why it doesn't exist. So. Richard's probably well equipped to answer this, but has several legal documents saying he can't.
The problem is I'm currently executing on 2 of those ideas right now.
I've got a couple, but I'm not at liberty to discuss them at this point. Sorry.
Something I've thought of is like someone who makes a telescope that's an astrograph that only meant for imaging, and they put like the capabilities of a night crawler into the telescope, so you don't have to like add on any kind of third party thing. It has like electronic rotation and all of that kind of stuff built in. Would be interesting. I don't know how much
Arizona
they
did
charge
that
for
on
it.
their Hyperions, which is a Harmer Wind telescope. But yeah, the rotator and all of that was built in. I think they even had a control focuser for the piggyback telescope. If you did it, you just routed it in the back panel. Those are $13,000 telescopes, but
Nightcrawler's a focuser rotator. I don't know if we should mention that for the
Oh, yeah, that's right.
muggles who don't know what that is. That is a great. I have one of those on my Esprit 150. That's a great piece of.
if you haven't seen a Nightcrawler, they're huge. I saw
But
one
you
on the
can
back
put
of a.
anything on it.
You
Put
can.
anything on it. Anything.
I saw one on a Talk 85 Baby Q.
Oh,
And it was
Gosh.
hysterical because it just looked like a lens with a
Yeah.
focuser on it. It was huge. I haven't messed with rotators. We don't have one at the remote observatory. Trevor, I don't think you've got any
never used a
rotators.
rotator. No.
I wouldn't be surprised if ZWO comes out with a rotator. I feel like that's the only advanced thing they need to put in there.
I'm sure it's on their list. Yeah.
But the Nightcrawler is ridiculous in person. And Nico, I know you don't have a Nightcrawler, so
Oh, I
most
thought-
of your
I-
telescopes.
I thought of
You're
another thing,
quick.
like a mobile phone designed for astrophotography. So, like, I'm really surprised by how good some of my mobile phone results are. But I can just imagine if one was like built from the ground up for astrophotography, how much better it could be.
Okay, Apple, chop, chop. You know, because real people use Apple products and not Androids. But we're not going to start that because that's a whole nother episode of the What's Up Webcast. The Sony phones have been pretty impressive from what I've seen, but it would be cool. I know what you're saying, from the ground up where, you know, it's existed. What I don't know if you've seen, I saw it the other day at Verizon. It's an Android phone. I don't even know what it's called, but it's a phone, but then if you want it to be a tablet, the whole thing opens in half and then it's a tablet screen. It was like, that'd be pretty cool with an ASI Air. But yeah, if the camera was really good on top of it. Yeah, so that's pretty much all the time we have. Anything last remarks you guys want to tell before we close out the year?
I don't think so.
Like, the air got sucked out of the room at that point. So but yeah, well, I thank you guys for hanging out with us. Of course, if you guys want to, Richard, I think you're going to TSP.
I am going to Texas. Yep.
So
And Winter
I'll be
Star
at
Party.
Texas Star. Oh yeah, you can see Richard at Winter Star Party. Trevor, Richard, and myself, as well as the rest of our team, will be at Texas Star Party. Nico, you should book a flight to Texas.
Maybe. I'll see.
You
can
could
find me
pull off a
online.
cowboy hat too. I don't know. I think you could pull the Texas look off out there, but the food is surprisingly good out there in the middle of nowhere. I know Richard's gone to some of the restaurants out there, so.
Oh yeah. And my
But-
wife is I don't want to say picky eater. I can't think of a nicer way to put it, but she's a pretty picky eater. And yeah, I managed to feed her out there too. So
Well, cool. So thanks everybody for watching. If you have any other questions, of course, you can always throw them. Everyone has social media nowadays. It's not up to me if they don't answer it, but everyone has social media. Go bug them. This is the last episode of the What's Up Webcast for the year. The next 2 weeks, we're taking a break. If you want to come see the new CQ350, I'll be at Star Arizona tomorrow. Come hang out. Check it out. Critique it, because you probably will. And then good luck on the holiday season. Thanks to you three for hanging out with us and wrapping up the year. I hope you have a safe holiday season and don't freeze and have a good time. So, Nico, enjoy playing with your robot telescopes. So,
Thanks.
thanks. And yeah, we will see you guys in 2023. So take care. Thanks a lot, guys, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.